for November 5th, 2012. Our first item that on our agenda is to stand, and we will have Pastor Salisbury pray for us.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this season that we're in right now, as so much of our thoughts and attention are toward the general election and the election of our local officials as well. And Father, we just thank you for a country where we are free to vote and express our thoughts and our desires. And we just ask for protection on the whole process that is going on, that it would be done in an orderly and fair way. And Lord, now for this meeting, I just ask that you would bless the commissioners. I thank you for each one of them. And I ask, Lord, that you would give them wisdom and grant them the ability to hear not only the words, but the intent that is behind the words from anyone that's speaking. And Lord, I just pray that you would guide and direct our community. We ask for prosperity. We ask for your blessing. We ask for your favor to be upon this community that you've blessed us with. And Father, we commit all this to you now in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor. This time we will say the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, if you check your phones as well, turn the ringer off. And one other comment that I'd like to make this morning, I've had a couple people that are either watching the meetings here in the courthouse or on the webcam, comments about conversations between individuals during the meeting. Their voice is being picked up, and so they can't hear. They could hear the private conversations between people in chairs. Appreciate it if you need to talk, go outside. All right, Larry Whitesell, Highway Superintendent.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Got quite a few things this morning. Well, last week we had a meeting that was called by the I'm not sure I get the proper name right, the rail section of NDOT for the railroad crossing for the 560 project. And Mike McGaffrey, he's with NDOT Rail Office, I guess it is. And basically what happens is, we want to close the one crossing and essentially move it down to the east so that 550, 560 line up. And that process involves us filing a petition with them. Then by law, we have an on-site meeting, which we had last week. It started on site and moved to the highway garage due to the weather. But it was very productive, and essentially what came out of that meeting is that we've applied for, with the idea of the usual forewarning signs and that sort of thing, but with electric lights, and they're saying, well, you're going to have gates, lights and gates. That appears to be a given. The thing that's kind of up in the air a little bit is they also would like to see us do the overhead cantilever lights. And so we had a lot of discussion about that. And that would be nice if we could, it's just all about money. So the idea being that with those lights up there, the semi-traffic stops, the people behind the semi can see the light, hopefully. I didn't realize it at the time, but like later in the week I was coming back in from the east, where 28, the same rail crosses 28. There are no even arms, let alone overhead lights at Hobbs, which is kind of amazing when you look at the difference in traffic potential. So what will happen is they took their information back. There's someone else higher yet that they in the NDOT that they file the information, the findings with. They make a determination. They send that determination and the petition back to our attorney. Our attorney gets it, sends it to us. If we don't agree with it, we have some period of time we can appeal. So make our case. So anyway, that's kind of where that's at. And then another thing, we've been working with Matt Heck of UE Wind reviewing the road use agreement for what's called Prairie Breeze Project, which would be north and west Windmill Farm area. Pretty much, they've taken the existing road use agreement we negotiated with Eon and have made some requests for some changes, and we discussed those items. We're not very far apart. We're pretty close. There are some things in there that I would call legalese that I'm not, that's for the attorneys to look at, and you folks and so on. But as far as the details, so they, for the most part, are looking at accepting it pretty much the way we have it.
Okay.
And in fact, they were kind of impressed with it, what we have. So that's been that. And then, as you'll recall, at the last meeting, we took bids on trucks for the county, and the bids came in amazingly competitive and close. I do a spreadsheet every time to try to get accurate analysis. And the bottom line is the front page is my recommendation, and the second page is all the detail of where the bids, how the bids came in. And as you can see, my recommendation is to purchase 2 triaxle trucks, and in doing that particular combination, Indy Truck Sales out of Indianapolis is the low bidder. It would be International Harvester Trucks, and W.A. Jones out of Columbia City would be the upfitter for all of the hydraulic and the various the snowplow equipment and all the stuff, the bed and the numerous things it takes to put the truck together. And then in the process as well, I recommend we utilize the Navistar Capital Municipal Lease Program with a $1 buyout on a 36-month term, the first payment being due upon receipt of the trucks, and 2 annual payments thereafter. And it falls just barely under our budgeted amount of $100,000 a year, where we come in at $99,317.36 per year. So that is my recommendation regarding the purchase of those.
When will these trucks be ready for delivery?
180 days, I think, is what the bids, we left the space for them to give us an anticipation. So 180 days for the truck. So, we probably not see them in time to plow snow next year. And a little explanation, excuse me. We bid a tandem and a triaxle with the option of going either way. And after careful analysis, the fuel prices especially, but we stock our own stone. So every time we go to the quarry with a triaxle, we can bring back 5 tons more than we can by tandem. And so that's an economic thing. Once we stock the stone, then we spend all summer hauling it out, applying to the road. And the fact of the matter is, that instead of hauling 5 tons more there, we're probably hauling 6 or maybe 7 tons more, because our guys are loading them heavier than they do at the quarry. And so, just you're eyeballing how much, you don't know how much you're putting on, but when you start loading the truck, it looks like it's not full yet, so you just keep kind of putting on there. So it's quite a bit more efficient. You can, and when you're chip sealing, you need the efficiency of having enough truck of stone to go with a distributor load of oil, so that you run out of oil before you run out of stone, just before you run out of stone. And then while the guy is going to refill the distributor truck, then everybody's making a cycle back to reload the stone. So the triaxles make that a lot more feasible.
I move that, based on the recommendation of Mr. Weitzel, that the county purchase a triaxle tandem dump truck from Indy Truck Sales of Indianapolis, including the bed and equipment package provided by W.A. Jones, and utilizing Navistar Capital Municipal Lease, And this would be for a total of,
Two triaxles, Jane, not triaxle, tandem.
oh, okay. I thought it says at the top, the tandem truck there, dump truck there.
272,990.
Okay, excuse me, the two triaxle trucks there.
Right.
But what was the total there?
272,990.
272,990.
Page two, fifth column. Or fourth column.
$272,990.
Sir. We have a motion second on the floor to allow Larry Weitzel to proceed with purchasing two new triaxles from Indy Truck Sales, and the total is $272,990, and he will be utilizing Navistar Capital Municipal Lease Program. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. I have five, sorry.
Just a quick question, the lease is 3 years,
Yes.
and the 272, does that include all the plows and everything you need? Thank you.
I have five permits today. 4 are from Bex. First one is, and I think these are all field entrances for Bex, actually. The first one is 450 North, right near US 31. That one would be 12-30.
Move to approve permit number 12-030 to Bex Hybrids for field entrance on County Road 50 North and post US 31.
Second. We have a motion second on the floor to grant road entrance permit for Bex, 450 North at US 31, permit 12-030. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carries.
Okay, the second one would be for Bex as well. This location is 500 South. That's 800 West and 500 South.
Same thing.
What?
Same thing.
Same thing.
Same stuff. No, you okay with these? You okay with these, Phil? Are you okay with these?
Yes.
Okay. Move to approve permit number 12-031 to Bex Hybrids for a field entrance at 800 West and by southwest corner of 800 West and 500 South.
Second. We have a motion second on the floor to grant another permit to Bex for a field entrance, 12-031, 800 West and 500 South. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
The next one is for Bex Field Farm entrance. This is actually two entrances on the same field, on a large field. 225 West and 300 West, a mile north of 600 South, so essentially 500 South, but it'd be 225 and 300 West.
Move to approve permit number 12-032 to Bex Hybrids for two field entrances at County Roads 225 West and 300 West, a mile north of 296th Street.
Second. We have a motion second on the floor to grant permit 12-032 to Bex for another field entrance, 225 West and 300 West. There's actually two of them. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries.
One more for Bex, and this will be on 550 North, and this will be 1,300 feet west of US 31.
Move to approve permit number 12-033 to Bex Hybrids for a field entrance at 550 North, 1,300 feet west of US 31, south side of the road.
Second. We have a motion second on the floor to grant permit 12-033 to Bex for another field entrance, 550 West, just west of US 31. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
One more. This is for Frontier Phone Company to bore a service under the road and trench down the edge of the road to the pedestal for 2660th Street East, 300 Bell.
Is that part of this project for the broadband special?
No, that's totally separate. This is service, new service to a new home.
That's a directional board.
It's a directional bore under the road, but they'll trench along for those. They got about 100 yards of trench on the north side of the road to get to, well, no, take that back. They're gonna have to put pads in there. That's the lines there. They're gonna have to dig it up and put pads in there.
I move to approve permit number 12-034 for public utility work from Frontier on near 2663 East and 300 North for a new telephone drop.
We have a motion and a second on the floor to grant permit 12-034 to Frontier for directional boring under the road for phone access. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
You said they're all digging, what, 100 yards?
They're not, they're just putting, yeah, they got past a couple lines, but that's, I was thinking they had to trench it.
They don't have to trench it.
They don't have to, but they will have a hole right over there. The line just runs straight through the front pass.
Connections.
Yeah, they make their connection. That's all I have.
Thank you, Larry. Bill?
Good morning. What I submitted in front of you there is for the parking lot over here. We received a letter from IDEM, and it is in this, in middle October, October 16th, basically saying they'd received all of the report from ATC and Associates, and they said they wanted more investigation because one of the wells that some of the soil samples and the groundwater contained, let's see where it's actually said, it basically contained, I think, gasoline is what they were referring to in the pulled sample. So what IDEM has requested is that we do an additional well test site farther south of the property. And at the very end of this packet that I gave you is or two maps, one showing the existing 4 wells that are out here in the parking lot, and then one that would be just south of MW2, the monitoring well number 2, where I've asked ATC to give me a proposal that would satisfy what IDEM has requested, which is we go out there south of the property, we go down, we test the soils to see if any of the basically the gasoline that was detected in the monitoring well 2 has migrated south toward the residential property. And that's what IDEM was saying we have to do we have to have this done supposedly by January.
So that well would be basically in the drive that's right there on the north side of the
I think
residence?
it's somewhere in that area. I don't know, I don't have it specifically pinpointed, but I think it's pretty close to that.
Well, how far will it be from that other existing well that's directly north of this proposed well?
Let's see, in looking at the scope of work. I think it's going to be about 20 feet or more south. No, excuse me, I'm sorry. Well, the letter from IDEM basically says that the reported groundwater flow is to the south and data does not exist in the area between monitoring well 2 and the southern property border along East Madison Street, approximately 70 feet. Considering that the facility is in a wellhead protection area, a thorough understanding of the soil and groundwater plumes is necessary. So I think it just needs to be inside of the property line, but toward the south property line of the parking lot is where they're going to end up having to put it in. In addition, IDEM came out with new rules for testing last March. And those rules, here it is, are called the Remediation Closure Guide and the Remediation Program Guide, which became effective March 22nd. Because we don't have a closure, we have to, they're saying we have to now
Follow the new rules.
follow the new rules and the new testing, so there, as we continue on with this, there are more things that need to be tested for, and so we're being hit with that as well. It is what it is.
More cost.
Yes. Therefore, I talked with Morgan Saltgiver at ATC, well, Cardinal ATC, asked them to provide this proposal to us. What it basically boils down to is approximately $8,000 of additional cost to, one, there's project management, they got about $1,886 to see along page 5 of the report, or the proposal. The drilling oversight sample collection is $1,600. The drilling services, $1,800 and some dollars. Private utility locate, $880. Laboratory services for about $1,300. And then also everything that they pump out, they store in a 55-gallon drum, and they have to dispose of that properly as well. So that's another $440 for basically $7,942.80, not to exceed. So this is what they proposed. I've looked through it. But honestly, I don't know other than we need to do this stuff according to IDEM, but also know we don't really have $7,942.80 to do anything. So my question is, I want to present it to you, let you look at it, maybe we can have a discussion. I don't think we need to move on it today,
Okay.
but we could maybe move in 2 weeks and have a discussion where the monies could come from to take care of this issue. I'm going to go back, like I said, I just got this on Friday from Morgan because we just got the letter a week, 2 weeks ago, basically. And so I sent it to them and asked them to talk with IDEM and see where we're at. So that's where we're at. And if you got any questions or concerns, obviously cost is not something I was anticipating at all, but
It's not much you can do about it, though.
They have not completed the original part of the contract, they have they?
no, they've still got 3 more samplings to go. So this would be an addition, plus, like I said, they would continue to do the sampling that they have to do, we have to do for the wells for the full next year, basically, the 4 quarters of sampling that we told them we would do. Now we're gonna add this new well to that as well. So that's what this additional cost, A, to put the well in, and B, to do that testing. The well will be they're going to first auger down and do the soil sampling, and then once they've done the soil sampling, they will put in an actual permanent 2-inch well They put sand around it at the bottom, they put a bentonite clay or bentonite material around the top of it, with a concrete, basically top that covers everything with a plug over it that's flush with the ground, real similar to what's out there now. So it will be a permanent testing well that's in there.
Was the price of that original contract around $25,000?
That, I believe that's correct. So we're up to 33,000 for a $10,000 piece of property.
Expensive parking lot.
Very expensive parking. I wish I had a better answer. I don't. I'm gonna make a call to the IDM individuals and see, if that we can move the extent, have it a little bit of an extension, because by the time we, review this, get it accepted, we're into Thanksgiving, December, I'm just not sure we can get this whole thing done by January, but we do need to move ahead somehow. Other than that, we met, or I talked with Fred McCorkle on the wind farm issues. Still upset. Quite honestly, it's some issues with just power, and they're going to have power interruptions out there as they move cranes, as they bring things online. So that's it. There's not much we can do.
Are they taking the lines down when they move the cranes across the road? Are they actually taking the lines down, or will the cranes go underneath the existing lines?
I don't think they'll go in it, because I don't think they take the booms down. I bet the booms are,
So they're taking the wires down then?
yes.
Okay.
And that's causing most of the interruptions.
Yeah.
The trenching work has all been completed in Tipton County as, according to my inspectors, so that is done. Now they're finishing finishing up in Madison County on repairs to tiles and stuff like that. They'll be coming into Tipton later this month to start that work, and we'll be reviewing that and making sure that that's basically around each of the sites where they've got tiles that were broken. They're located, and we'll make sure that that's getting all done. Other than that, everything else is moving forward. Any questions from the board?
I don't have any.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
Thanks, Bill.
The only thing I wanted to comment, when you said about the power interruptions, we've been notified every time they're gonna do it from the power company.
And that is, and Mr. McCorkle even says they've been notified. He's just mad that they're doing it on weekends and stuff like that too. So,
Okay, all right, thanks. Sheriff?
All right, 34 today, that's my count. We got a couple things. First, get the little things out. We'd like to open up bids, and these are just the the specs that we put out for the new vehicles for next year. I gave you a copy, and I gave the auditor's office a copy, everything, make copies of it for how they can bid them out. What I'd like to do is be able to get the bids opened up maybe about December 17th, so we'll open them in about 45 days, I think. Pretty close. If he put that in his advertisement.
That'll be in the newspaper, right?
Yeah, that has to go in the news under legal notice, I think.
I know the last time there was a complaint from one of the local
Right.
vendors that
And I've
they
already,
were
and I've
approached, but
notified
then
both the vendors
it was in
already.
the paper, they just overlooked it.
Yeah, yeah, it was in the paper, and they thought I should have come out and personally told them, so this year I did.
Okay.
Told them we were gonna be looking for 3 vehicles, and just you can put police vehicles, you don't have to put SUVs and cars separate, just police vehicles. We can get that in. And then the other thing, I have a contract from the government that was brought to me, and I sent to John, and he looked it over. And it's for the military. They contacted me, they want to do some special ops training at our range in January for about 13 days, 12, 13 days, I think. And he said it looked good, but I wanted to, before I signed it, I wanted you guys could agree to do it, and then I'll have Mike sign it or something like that. They do have a clause in here that they may put guards out, because they probably don't want you watching what they do unless you're authorized. And so if people start meeting, they'll probably put people up shutting.
Be probably caravans going out there from town.
Yeah, but that's what this is, and I just wanted to.
John, would you comment, please, on the contract?
Sure, the sheriff sent it over to me, I had a chance to look at it, it looks fine. The only change is technically it's the commissioners that signed this contract. I mean, the sheriff uses it, but the county owns the property, so it'd be technically the commissioners would sign that agreement, and the sheriff could sign that because he's, in essence, a tenant of yours. So that's the process.
And let's see, I've got plumbing problem right now in one blocks, which is never ending thing, over to jail. The hot water system's working very well with the tankless water heater, so. And that's all I have for you. Then we can use that. Snakes, plungers. Run by 3. And then on Hamilton County also has got a bid in out here at Dan Young for like 15 to 20 SUVs, and if they do get the bid, I can piggyback off of them and get mine cheaper than what we paid the past, so. All right. Find out about that.
I'm sure Dan Young would like the business too.
I'm gonna buy it, so I at least like to buy at least one from each dealer here in town.
That's good.
For sure.
John, are you asking for us to take action on this license agreement?
Yeah, just, they need to have it sent back to them. And I gotta get a signature. I was gonna sign my name on it and then have a signature. You guys can all sign across the bottom or something, then I will get it returned to them.
I'll move that we accept this, approve this license agreement with the United States, referred to as the government for military training, the use of the firing range
Yes.
for the period of January 1st, 2013 through January 13th, 2013. Between the government and Tipton County as presented and upon recommendation by the county attorney.
Did not look at it. They also, I think they stayed in there, anything, we can do a walkthrough afterwards, and anything that's not like it was, they will repair and pay for. Part of it too.
So when you say that they will, they don't want people watching and they'll have guards, they'll just kind of ask them to leave or?
Well, they may just tell them to try to pick another road or something, if it happens. If they don't have a lot of people driving by, well, these people that are coming in are probably like your SEAL teams,
Yeah,
your
but
Rangers, people like that, and they don't like a big crowd of people watching what's going on.
Second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion second on the floor to enter into this license agreement with the U.S. government for military training purposes at a Tipton County firing range. All those in favor say aye. And the period of time is January 1st through January 13th. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Is that the first one? But I'll have, I don't think it's over there, I can have it make a copy of it, so we have a copy of it also.
John, while we're here, I don't know if you're going to stay, but would you want to comment on your opinion about the snowmobiles for the interview?
Yes, I think what we need to do, I think we need to look, I would like to contact a couple counties to see what they have. I know Hamilton County, I think they have an ordinance on there, and Doug can kind of Doug can kind of comment a little bit on what their ordinance is. I think a lot of it, they have to stay off the thoroughfares. Am I correct on that, Doug? On the ordinance for the snowmobiles down Hamilton County?
Mainly the ordinance, as it exists today, covers golf carts only, but it could theoretically cover other all-terrain vehicles that have front and rear flashing lights, turn signals, brake lights, those kinds of things. Kind of curious that you gladly forward the one up for me to review if you'd like to.
So I think we have one for the
Yep.
ATVs now, right, correctly? And they have to be, I mean, I think it's something you've got to follow in sync with if you do snowmobiles the same way. Unless it's snow emergency, then they should be allowed to drive on the county roads, if that's your way of getting medicine to people, things like that.
I asked John about that, and the way I understand it, and the way I found in state statutes, that it is covered under ATVs with the DNR. And
If you have it registered with
what we
DNR.
presented, John, was an example from, I think it was Rush County. And Rush County excluded snowmobiles. And so I think if we want to allow them, we have to take that paragraph out of ours. Is that correct?
That's correct.
You would have to take one out of your thing to allow
To
them,
include
because they
it.
don't have turn signals.
Right.
They do have brake lights, I know, and they have headlights, but, I think you ought to, I think they ought to have the driver's license like the ATVs and everything like that. I think that's one thing, if you do it, that they have to be licensed drivers, they have to follow the signs. Not like we're gonna be able to catch them anyway if they take off on us, I mean,
Are you-
really.
Are you for or against snowmobiles riding on the county
I
roads?
was just asking your opinion.
Yeah.
I used to do, I mean, I used to ride them, I mean, as a kid, back when I was
Before you
13,
had a
14,
driver's
15.
license?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Back then, they didn't worry about it, but yeah, I used to ride them, and I'd ride down the county roads, and the only thing is, bad thing is if we get a big snow, you get the snow piled up on the corners, and you're not gonna see it. I mean, that's the thing you gotta look at.
I was requested from a guy that lives in town, and every winter he uses his snowmobile, and he rides out to his mom, still lives out in the country. And he was reading the ordinance, and it says exclude snowmobiles. Well, I asked him if he's registered with the DNR, and he said no, but I said, well, you're supposed to be.
Yeah, then you'd have to follow all the same regulations, and I'm not against it, but it's like, say you have people that are gonna drive sensibly and have people that aren't. And if somebody blows through a stop sign and gets hit by a car, now they should have insurance on it and everything too, property damage liability, things that you gotta make sure they have. That's one thing that, I don't know if people have.
What do you think, Dave?
Well, I don't have a strong opinion about it. That's why I asked John to comment, because I was worried about a snowmobile being so low to the ground, and it's maybe a vehicle not being able either to see it, like he said, with the snow piled up, or a vehicle maybe on a snow-covered road sliding into the
Because they're going
snowmobile,
wild
and
in
they
that
don't have any
direction.
protection.
It's really though, when the crops are going, so it should be more visible than a gator when the crops are up, which we allow the farmers to do, so.
Yeah, the only thing is, I would definitely state what roads they cannot run parallel. They can't, like State Road 28, Division Road, you can't run down those, they can only cross those roads. I mean, your main thoroughfares, you do not want them on those, unless it's an emergency, if you're on the way of getting around.
So you would exclude division.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
I think we already excluded the state highways, but not division.
Yeah, I would look at Division Road, because it's pretty well traveled. A lot of intersections.
Does it travel any more than 300 south, or is it travel any more than 600? I don't think it is.
I think Division's the main thoroughfare from everybody that works in Kokomo back to Elwood, Frankton. That's where I run into most of the people.
You can eliminate a lot of them if you insist upon
Pretty
insurance.
rare,
Do what?
You can eliminate a lot of them if you insist upon insurance, right?
Yeah, they would have to have papers.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, so maybe that's the way to
Insurance
go.
on ATVs.
Insurance
Have
on
some kind of-
ATVs, it has to meet all the same DNR standards as.
ATVs, golf carts.
ATVs, everything.
And I'll get some ordinance if you guys would like to see them.
You had said when you first began speaking that you would check with some surrounding counties to see if they allow them on
Right, yeah.
on their
You guys
county
wanna-
roads, or on their roads, just to see what their experience has been.
I'll check with
Why
them.
don't you gather that information and provide that to
Give it to
John
John.
Brook and let John look it over, and then we can talk
Okay.
about it at our next meeting.
See what Larry thinks about it.
Larry, do you have any comments about that?
Yeah, I'll get with Campbell, or I'll get with Madison, Clinton, Howard, and I'll get something sent up here. Then I'll get it forward to John.
Okay.
All right?
Thanks, John.
Thank you. Greg, I'll make a copy of this. Put it in your office.
Okay, Spark Shepler's the next one on our agenda.
Good morning.
Morning.
Here we are again. As you know, we held a couple public meetings on the master plan, and they were pretty well attended. Those were a follow-up to the meetings we had in August. And what I wanted to do this morning is just kind of come in and just give you kind of what you guys were there, heard most of it. But we heard, as it comes to the courthouse, we heard discussions about, you know, the people that realize there's need in the courthouse. Some questions about, you know, what's wish list, what's priorities, what's mandated, you know, what needs to be done. And all that really not settled in everybody's mind. We talked about the jail. We didn't really hear a lot of discussion that people saying that they realize that nothing needs to be done. They realize that something needs to be done. But the question about what and where and to what extent and those kinds of things. And then when it comes to the financing, you know, obviously nobody wants to spend money. And but I think what we clearly heard was no property taxes. And so after we had our meetings, before I forget about Mike Conley with Architectura and Doug Carter with RQAW are both here to address any questions you guys might have, that kind of thing. But we sat down, we talked about it and kicked around a few things and said, you know, what makes sense, you know, at this point. And so with that, I'm going to give you a couple. We went out on a limb and made a couple basic. Oh, there you are.
There he is, you should.
Made a couple basic recommendations, and given the fact that if there's a funding source that involves some kind of income tax and a supplemental income tax, as Gary puts it, then you know there's some things that have to happen in December to make that happen. Now, we also understand that just because you start that process doesn't mean you have to end that process. But we also know that if you're going to go down that road, then we need to button up our information. And the other thing we heard heard some about was the development of a local committee to review the information. What we gave was data, and we gave some scenarios and some options and some ideas. Which I thought was a very good suggestion, was to develop a committee comprising of a group of people to sit down and look at this and learn more about it than what we can do, even though our presentations were an hour and a half long. They can do more and bring more information and better background than what we can do in a public presentation. And thought that was a great idea. And so the basic things we came up with was based upon the fact, I'm going through the bullet points now, and based upon the fact that if there is project or projects in the future, then the supplemental income tax seems to be the thing that makes the most sense. And the legislative actions and requirements that be made, we'd recommend that process be started. Secondly, we recommend that I call it a local planning committee. That I even threw out a couple ideas that would consist, that committee would consist of commissioner representative, council representative, or representatives, the sheriff, some people in the courthouse, and then local citizens, and get a broad base of possibly industry, agriculture, small business, residential, those kinds of representations. You don't want to get your committee too big, but you want to get a spectrum wide enough to be able to cover those points of view. And so we're recommending you go ahead and move to look at appointing some kind of committee. And then also, lastly, was to engage the professionals to help that committee, help the commissioners and council get through the process and make sure that the information that the committee and the leaders are looking at is based on solid information and solid ground. And Mike and Doug, you guys can just jump in here if you've got any kind of comments that I've left out. But our thought is this, is something's going to need to be done with the jail, and there's things in the courthouse that need to be addressed. And if that is in the cards, whether that happens in December or whether it happens next year, whenever that happens, a closer look by people in this community, by the commissioners and council, needs to be taken at this. And while the information is hot and while it's there, we recommend that you begin to work towards a final solution, which is not a good term, but work towards a solution that you guys have. And then begin to answer some of these questions about location of jail and to what extent, bed count, budgets, schedules, priority lists on the courthouse, and begin to address the things in the courthouse that are of a higher priority, like the water infiltration, the ADA accessibility, what to do with the storage, all these kind of hot issues that need to be addressed. So my point here is that even the fact that whether the financing comes now or comes later, this other work is going to have to be done. And you're going to take a good close look at it and decide what you're going to do. The worst thing we could do is, like we've said before, is the worst thing you can do is go to talk about financing and your numbers not be as right as they can be, because you've only got one shot at that. And so that's kind of our thoughts. And be interested to hear what you guys heard at the meeting and what you thought of it. But I thought I'd give you what we heard, and we had very good meetings that were well attended. Well, overall they were well attended. Our one in the north was a little, but I think we had, in those two meetings, I think we had a total of 41, 42 people show up, not counting the local leaders and the planning team. And then we, of course, we met back on the August 28th and 29th in the other room, had good attendance in there. So, and we also understand that that's probably not the sum total of all the meetings you want to have. We talked about maybe getting Farm Bureau. We talked about maybe looking at Kiwanis. There may be some other meetings that you want to conduct and get people's other input. But, and that would certainly be part of what it is. What we would propose is, based upon whatever you guys think, we would propose that if you want to move forward with working towards this committee and their review of the information, develop that information, and get down to the answers that we're looking for, we would sit down, put together a proposal, and come back with you we would need more some discussion about what that's going to entail.
Yeah, that was one of my questions. I've got two questions. One is on this legislative action. If that is carried by one of the state legislators and it is approved, what is the time period that is good or active?
My understanding, and this is my understanding, what I would expect to hear back from the legislature once you put it on the table, I would expect to hear something in March or April. But as far as how long that's good for, I know a couple counties that sat on it for a year and a half, and began to build that money up and begin to spend it when they got it. So once it's there, and once that purpose is established, and that goes into effect, I think it's good.
Okay. And then what you were saying, or at least what I think you were saying, was as far as putting together a consensus of your team, working with a local committee, then there will be a fee for that.
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought.
And what we would want to do is we want to sit down and get a good handle from you guys, how you see that, with input from us, and how we might be able to see that too. And how far we need to take that. Here's what we do need. We need good budgets, and we need to know what we're going to do, and as far as the jail is concerned, how big, how much, and how much it's going to cost. What's our priority list on the courthouse, if that's the way that we need to look at it. There's a lot of work to be done to get to that point.
I think you guys have really provided us a lot of good information on stuff that basically a lot of stuff needs to be done. agreed there's some stuff, if money was no problem, I think that'd be very, very nice to do. But right now, all the people I've talked to, the biggest question is, we don't want to raise our taxes right now. And especially the property taxes, there's a lot of people on fixed income that could not stand that. So I like the idea of a local planning committee where we can get other people to sit down and start discussing it and give us, you know, opinions and recommendations on what they see we need to go forth with the county before we commit to any money from any direction. So I personally don't think we are ready to go to the state for the supplemental income tax, but next year might be a possibility if we get more facts and figures on what we really want as a county.
I think if we move forward with it, and I had several calls this past week of people basically saying, hey, we don't want to do anything, we don't want to spend any money, and/or the other comment was, if we have to do something, we feel like that the jail is a need and the courthouse is a want. That was kind of the overall comments. But I agree with the local plan group, whether you call it a study.
Local planning committee.
You got a local planning committee, or whether it's a study group.
Right.
I agree that we should form that group, and that we should have, while the information is fresh, have the input from that committee, have them reach out to people, because we still have not heard from very many people.
Right.
When you consider the population versus the number of people that attended the meetings. But several people that called me were people that came to meetings and/or talked to people that.
To that, I would say that your local committee needs the support of how to look at that information, and that's what we're proposing to do, to provide that support to. Rather than just look through the page and say, well, we can do this, because every decision you make or every opinion you have, there's an impact to that that may affect codes, certainly budget.
So you're saying that really the local planning committee needs guidance from the people who put the data together.
That's what I believe.
And you're asking if we want to proceed with asking you to present us a proposal for that service. Correct?
And in that, I think we still need to talk further with Humboldt and get a better sense of the timing and those kinds of things, and they would be a part of that as well.
I think another important reason to put this off for just a little while, the planning group could start, in my opinion, but I think it's important to bring the new county council on, because they're going to be the ones asking for the tax increase if we decide, if this group comes back and says, there is a need, we have to do this. We have the support to do this. If they come back with that, then the council needs to weigh in on it, because they're the ones asking for it. So what's your recommendations?
I think we need to find this committee first.
We'll need to know from them what it's going to cost if we go that route.
Yeah.
And at least know what the proposal is.
Yeah, I agree. I think putting a committee together and then just giving them the information with no guidance is not productive.
Yes.
So I don't have any problem with you providing us with some sort of proposal on what your services will be.
But I also, keep in mind, we understand that there's going to be some other meetings. And we talked about that at our meetings, the need of having a couple more targeted groups. So that would be part of what we're talking about.
Well, why don't, the consensus I hear is you get back to us with what your services would entail, and what it would cost to help this group move forward with analyzing your proposals.
If that's what we're going to do, then what we would like to do is put together a draft of that and send it to you guys, let you look it over to see what you think of it, to see if there's any input. We're going to want to come at this with a unified understanding of what we think we're going to do and what you expect out of that too. So we'll send that to you ahead of time, look it over, and my intent would be to come to the next meeting with that. I see a lot of nods back there, so.
All right.
Okay.
Very good. Thanks, Spike.
Thanks for all your help, guys.
Thanks for all your help. Got it,
Yeah.
Mike. Thank you.
drone stuff.
Okay, the next item on our agenda is Lido contract discussion.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I asked to be on the agenda the last meeting, there was a lot of discussion about the Lido contract regarding the payment and payment schedule, but not much discussion about the content of the contract. I don't know if, really there was much talked about the contract, so I simply wanted to, for the record, and to be entered into the minutes, what my concerns regarding the contract are. The interlocal agreement signed last spring called for the Alliance to meet with the Lido board. In the June 25th meeting, when the directors of the Lido were approved, it was agreed that this meeting to discuss current priorities and goals would take place as soon as the directors had their first meeting. The Tipton County Economic Development Organization was created as a legal entity on July 14, 2012. The full Alliance Board never had any meetings with the Lido directors until 3 months later on October 10th, and the contract for services was already drafted with no input from the full Alliance Board. The scope of services in the contract is too narrow and is based on a report almost 4 years old. The contract states that if more services are desired, it does allow for the parties to meet. However, the Lido may ask for additional compensation if the services are added. There was no willingness to add changes that are generally accepted as standard in every economic development services contract before the contract was scheduled to be approved, despite my numerous requests. This contract is for 5 years for a guaranteed amount of $750,000 paid to the Lido by the county and the city, and the Lido is not obligated to change anything once the contract is signed. The dollar percentage that was figured to be the county's share is not the correct proportion. I attempted to correct this error in the spring when the interlocal agreement was being drafted. The county is paying more of its fair share than the city. This percentage was increased over the percentage that the county had historically paid to the EDC. And the current DLGF figures for edit fund distributions support that the county's percentage is too high. Additionally, county edit funds have been used for all of 2011 and all of 2012 for economic development services for both the city and the county. There is no method of measurement of effectiveness in the agreement so that the county could quantify whether the services resulted in any success. Our county attorney had a number of suggestions and additions to the contract and stated that the contract could benefit from additional language and changes to the scope of services. But he added that once the director was in place, those changes could be made. However, changes that are standard expectations of services would have no bearing on who the director is, and they should have been added to ensure that the county was protected. Regarding payment, there was never any discussion between the Lido or its Director of Finances and the Board of Commissioners to share information on what the Lido's immediate financial needs actually are, and to explain to the Lido the statutes and policies the county is to abide by in terms of timing of the payments. I asked for the Lido's Articles of Incorporation on October 10th, but when my request was never fulfilled, I obtained them on my own, only to find that the name of the fiscal officer of the Lido is not included in the Board of Directors list. When I asked why, I received no reply. In May 2011, the proposal for a new direction promised that it would function with openness and transparency and would seek input from and collaboration with all stakeholders. There has been one meeting with the Alliance and most members of that Lido board, and now we are expected to approve a 5-year binding contract in which we had no input and which we know needs changes. When I began my term as county commissioner, I pledged to guard county tax dollars as if they were my own. and make financial decisions as if the money were coming from my own pocket. I have shared this contract with many citizens and asked if they would want me to approve such a binding document based on an incomplete scope of services and a monetary amount that is unfairly heavy to the county. And each time the answer was no. I would not agree to a contract that needed changes or was unfairly weighted if it involved my own personal money. And I can't vote to approve one when it involves the taxpayers' monies, especially when there is no reason or explanation as to why the input from and collaboration with all stakeholders, as was promised, did not occur. So those are my comments on the content of the contract.
My thoughts on this is we have had a group of people who have been looking for almost 2 years. Well, the public, the 15 out of 16 of us elected officials gave total consent that this is the direction we want to go. We did meet with the Alliance, and the Alliance did give a conception that this is the direction we want to go. I firmly believe that our next step for the county, we need to get a director on board so we can follow the expert or who we have faith in to go forward with economic development for Tipton County. Most all the candidates that were even running in our candidates forum all spoke that a #1 issue for Tipton County is we need to get going forward with economic development to help the county. So I agree that with a new director comes on board, there are going to be issues that we are going to have to work together, and we're going to collaborate with the city and form an agreeable contract. We knew, and we said before, when the volunteers first came, they said it was a working document that we are subject to change and will listen. So I am for a contract so they can hire a director, which they need money to hire the director. And I believe this is the case. I did make the motion last time to accept the contract, but I agree that the in advance is direct. So the contract is taken in advance out because we can't pay for services before they're delivered. So that has been removed. Are there other issues with the contract that you definitely want out?
Well, just as I stated, I tried in the spring to make the case that our share was not right, and I just don't think that's fair.
We sat in that meeting and Mayor Havens figured up the amount. I mean, we all sat there and we all agreed this is close. If it's not right, we can change that when we get down.
No,
Nobody has said a different figures.
The figures were in it before we ever discussed it. Someone else did the figuring. I don't know who.
At our last meeting, I had said that I would have John Brook weigh in on this and look at this and report back to all 3 commissioners, which he did. He emailed all of us. He also sent us a hard copy of that letter. And I'd like for John to weigh in on his thoughts of what he shared with the commissioners in the meeting. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, John, if you would come over by the microphone, that would be helpful.
No problem. We're concerned about the code violation. I did have a chance to look at the contract, and I've looked at and talked with the commissioners. I've seen emails from Commissioner Harper about the contract. My role as county attorney is to look at the contract as a legal document. I'm not sitting as a commissioner when I wear this hat. I used to, but I'm not wearing this hat now. I'm serving as the county attorney to determine whether this is a legal document and creates a binding obligation between the county and the legal. And it does. There are some changes that I suggested to it. One change is that we take out the words in advance because the issues about paying for services in advance. The other one that I've mentioned that's implicit, but it probably should be specified specifically, and that can just be an insert, one sentence insert, is that compensation of the county shall be subject to appropriation by the county council. That's pretty standard. I request that in virtually all county contracts that have some funding to it because of the peculiarities of the county funding and finance. You guys are subject to appropriation by the county council. Everything that you spend has to be appropriated by the council. The city is a little different animal. The city and the mayor have certain funds that they can tap into, but the county is, because of the structure of government, you have to have subject to appropriation of the council. So I would suggest that that one sentence be added into the agreement as well. That's what the law is. We can't change the law. The law is that subject to appropriation. I would say just stick that in so that everybody's on the same page.
Now, can we write that in today, or do we need to have a typed copy?
Well, I only have what's called a PDF version of the agreement. But my assistant has this fancy little program that can add stuff to the contract. So when she's not there today because she's ill today, but we can have that added to. I would suggest putting it in, I think it's paragraph C. Yes, C, compensation. Right after the October 31, 2012, just put in that one sentence that says compensation of the county shall be subject to the appropriation by the county council.
If we enter in this agreement, then what about, I've had a lot of people ask about the payment, you know, we committed with dates to give them their money, and for the 2 months, November, December, they'd like some so they could get started. Is that a problem?
I know that the committee has been working ahead of time. I know the committee has been expending time and effort ahead of time. They have certain obligations that they have. By entering into this contract, you now create an obligation. I don't see that as a problem in going ahead and, you know, you have the appropriation in hand. I think it's through your edit plan. You have the appropriation in hand to, in essence, to pay them, compensate them for the services that have gone on beforehand, because they've been working in good faith with the county and the city that they will be providing the, entering into this agreement. That's where we are headed, so I don't see that as a problem in paying that for this year. But as the bills come out and, you know, for 2013, there'll be services they'll be providing, so you'll be, you know, approving claims in the future.
So, John, what are you saying then, that, I don't understand when you say they've been providing services, because they were volunteers, and we had no agreement with them to provide any services before November 1st.
Well, there wasn't a written agreement, there was an understanding that the city and the county are going to work together. Even though they're volunteers, they still have expenditures, I'm sure, that they've incurred. I don't know what they are, but I'm sure that they have. I know that they've been interviewing for an executive director, so that takes time, and there's some things that they have to do. So you're ratifying what those works are, and they've been operating under good faith that the county's in fact going to do this, and the city is going to do this. And so I don't see the problem going forward with that.
Can I make a motion to enter into the agreement with your changes? Do we write it in, or?
I would suggest that the motion be made that you approve the agreement with the changes to strike the words "in advance" and also add the language about appropriation by the county council.
Then I will make that motion that we enter into the agreement with the recommendations of county attorney to strike the words "in advance" that were in last 2 weeks ago contract, and add his language, have him add it, that dependent on county appropriation.
I still don't understand, just going to have to spell it out on the payment. What are you saying that we can pay?
I'm saying that you have some money in your edit plan for economic development. There have been services that have been going on that have been operating in good faith. So if I don't know if there's a claim to be done today, or if there's one in 2 weeks, but if for economic development, that's what
we have a claim today.
Okay, that's what your economic development money is for, and that's what your plan calls for, is for that economic development.
What is the claim for? Greg, do you have a claim today?
We're in the office right now.
Well, I'd like to know what it's for, because I still believe that a claim for services should be services already rendered. They were volunteers. They never asked to be paid for anything prior to November 1st, and we already were paying a director to do that. So, and the other thing is the issue with the $1,794.
Well, I think really what's on the table now is a motion to approve the contract. I don't know if there's a claim pending right now, or what the status of that is, so.
I plan on bringing up that claim,
Okay.
we're sitting in the seat
Okay.
after we find out what happens to the contract. If we don't get a contract, we won't
Yeah,
talk about the claim.
it's all moved, that's right.
Well, we're in the discussion phase, there was a question.
Okay, two questions back there. Charlie, had your hand up first, you still have a question?
Yeah, are we still in the discussion phase of this, or are you just gonna ram it on through?
Well, we are at a motion, we're at a point in the motion of adopting the contract.
That's what I understand. But here in A, I was school teacher for 30 years, and I was evaluated on what I was doing. And I see nothing here that says you're evaluating these people for spending my money as a taxpayer. In C, I should be able to see what that $87,000 is gonna get spent for. Some of that money's mine. I should be able to look down here and see. What this gentleman here is saying, that's fine if you wanna pay for things that people have had to spend. But you know, when I want paid for something, I have to provide people with the receipts in order to be paid. Now, I hear nothing about receipts. I hear, we're just gonna take the county money and just spend it.
Charlie, the $87,000 you're talking about is in the budget for 2013. The biggest percent of that will be for the salary of the economic development director that is hired.
I don't see anything else here for that, excuse me.
We haven't even hired the director yet.
That's
because
fine.
We have to have the money to offer the guy.
But I see nothing here that says, well, all that money is for, do I? And I don't see anything here that tells me how much this person is gonna be paid, do I?
We don't know how much.
No, you don't, and until you've got a contract, and until you can spend the county taxpayers' money, you can't approve contracts, sir.
Paul, you had a question or comment?
My comment is, Commissioner Harper, you've helped destroy this county for 4 years, and this is another tactic on your part.
Come on now.
To delay this thing.
Get the sheriff.
And it's time to move on. Our county has gone behind probably 20 years.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
This claim is for $14,500, which is the full amount, and it is based on a budget that calls for salary and benefits and rent and all those things that they would expend, but they do not have a director hired to incur these costs. So this claim is for the full amount. It does not deduct the $1,794 that we've already paid that the State Board of Accounts said has to be deducted. And
We're talking about the contract now.
I know, so
not the money.
regarding the contract, I still say it's really disappointing that we had all this time from June till now to just sit down and talk and try to get some things in the contract that would be necessary. And I just do not understand why that did not happen and why we couldn't have gotten these issues worked out, couldn't have got the money issue worked out. We never had a chance.
Well, John mentions in his letter that the contract is a living, breathing document, or something on that order, that it can be changed as we go along, and that his recommendation is that we make these changes and that we approve it, and then after the director's hired, we sit down with the new director and we address these issues that will come up after a new director's hired. And that we can't cover everything. First of all, I'm not interested in micromanaging the leader. But at this point, we have a recommendation and advice from our county attorney, and we have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
John, do you agree that if there are
Wait a minute, there's
changes,
discussion on
they
the motion
could be
here.
subject to
minute.
compensation changes? I mean, it does say that they can ask us to increase the contract.
Sure. That doesn't mean that it's going to happen, but,
And
I mean, it's subject to appropriation.
Right, and it also means that they don't have to agree to anything.
That's, well, and there's no obligation to make any modifications, but I think that the language in this particular contract seems to be a lot more liberal when it comes to making modifications than I see in a lot of contracts. Because it in essence creates an obligation to talk and to negotiate, which is more than in virtually any other contract. There is no obligation to negotiate and discuss. Once you enter into a contract, generally, that's set in stone and the contract prevails. But in this contract, there is that obligation for the parties who enter into further discussions. It's contemplated that the agreement is going to be modified. I think the language clearly itself shows that there is a contemplation by all parties that there's going to be a modification.
If they agree.
Well, I mean, even if the commissioners agree.
Right, that works for our benefit as well. I'll allow one more comment.
Okay, the comment I'm asking, or say is this: are we talking about entering into a contract or entering into a contract and prepaying some money to the organization? What are we talking about?
We're talking about the contract only right now. That's all.
We're not talking about the 17,000 and money that we want to give them ahead of time. It was all tied in last time, and that's what I'm asking.
You heard the motion. The motion is to adopt this contract with proposed changes that county attorney. So we have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second? Hearing none, I will second the motion. All those in favor of Phil's motion of adopting the contract with the proposed changes of John Brooks' suggestions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries.
While he's sitting there, I want to go ahead and talk about this claim. Then they have a claim in for $14,500. So I want to make a motion that we pay that claim minus the $1,794 that's been an issue, which makes the claim payment of $12,706.
But it's ahead of the services. That much money is ahead of the services. Greg, what I would suggest that you do is that you just call the State Board of Accounts and you ask them, and then you get whatever you're feeling comfortable with.
Amen.
Because in the end, it'll be.
I've got a motion to pay the claim. If it carries a second and we pass it, then
Okay.
that's the executive decision. John, is this a legal, is this?
Well, as I said, they generally the State Board of Accounts position is that you can't pay for services in advance, although there are occasions, I think, that some payments are made, some contracts, I think even on the drainage board, some contractors require some money to buy materials and that kind of stuff. It's pretty rare, but there are occasions that does happen. State Board of Accounts, they're not attorneys, they're not the legal end of it. They can add footnotes to audits. It's up to the Board of Commissioners to approve the claims. And when they approve the claims, and they instruct the auditor to pay those claims. That's part of the process. That's been historically the process in Indiana for 150 years.
Do you see any problem with the motion I just made?
I don't know what services, obviously you guys know what services have occurred prior to this. If you feel that you're comfortable with payment of the services and that things have gone on that require payment, then that's up to the Board of Commissioners to make that determination.
They have spent a lot of hours and a lot of painstaking hours on trying to sort through, get the advertising out for the director to get things in line that they've been told and advised that everything they've done has been legal also. So I don't think there'll be any issue on documenting. They've been working for a year or 6 months anyway, easy.
Well, I presume we're not talking about compensating the volunteers for their time, because they are volunteers.
I'm talking about the board of directors.
Well, compensating them for the.
I'm talking about giving this money to the Tipton County Economic Development Organization.
They will need some money when they do hire an executive director for salaries and whatnot, before you could get around to, because the claim process is such.
That's what this is for.
And this is the invoice that just says services.
I do think that I think it was $1,700 and some change for some bonds. I think that was a bit premature.
I included in a motion to take it out of their appropriation.
I think that was a bit premature, but.
John, Would it be better as far as making the payments to the new Lido in a monthly basis rather than biannually?
I think that's probably, that's something that would be subject to discussion with the Lido to find out. I mean, right now, they have some expenses. I'm sure they've incurred some expenses. I don't know what their anticipated revenue is, what their anticipated expenses are. You know, you could certainly start off maybe doing it that way, and then at some point change to appropriating or to paying more money as, you know, expenses increase. Because if they don't have an executive director right now, there's no real salary expense that's being incurred. That's the biggest chunk that is contemplated, I think, in the future. So maybe at this point, you know, a monthly claim or monthly payment might be appropriate, and then ramp it up after they get their activities going. That's always subject to discussion.
Well, I committed my support to get things going. I submitted my support for the alliance. I told them my support to work with the city. The whole majority, my support. So I want to help them get started and to go forward. I have had confirmed statements from all of them that if there's something that we need to work together to change, that is not an issue. So that's why I think we need to get forward. I think we need to get the director on board, and let's get going.
Question, Pastor Salisbury.
Yeah, I wondered if it'd be possible for the commissioners to allocate a startup fund. Forget what they have turned in saying we need, but the commissioners just understanding that they are doing the work that in good faith has been, they've been asked to do, so you give them $8,000 or $10,000, and you say this is your startup money from this point on. After these monies are spent, then from then on, any allocation of money will be done in advance of any spending. So,
We can't pay them in advance for services.
no, I meant not pay them in advance. Oh, yes, okay, yeah, they would turn in their receipts and then they'd be paid at that point.
That's the way I took this, the $14,000, which is basically, we took the total commitment, divided it by 12, and that's where we came up with $7,250 per month commitment. Basically, is what we as a county have requested. All right, they've been working, and they need to get a director on board. To do that, like John says, they have to have money. So to give them money, we have to have a contract. So that's why the contract was an issue. It now is a contract that is legal. Now, to give them the money, they asked for the $14,500, and John said the bond should have been theirs, so I subtracted it from it. So this is just for basically to get through the end of the year.
Okay, have you made the motion
Yes.
with the corrected amount?
$12,706.
Okay. So we have a motion on the floor to provide $12,706. It's actually $14,500 minus the money that was paid in advance for their bonds of $1,794, which leaves a balance of, for the motion, actually giving to the Lido for services rendered of $12,706. Do we have a second? I'll second the motion. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed?
Aye, and I'm opposed because it's paid in advance. We had no contract with them prior to November 1st.
And John said he gave his opinion on basically our good faith agreement with them. So the motion carries. Are there any other questions that you have for John?
I guess you should stay in the hot seat a little longer.
Yeah, I got a question.
Are you leaving now, John? Or
No, I wanted to hear the Maximus report.
Okay, all right.
He needs to see it too.
Okay, yeah.
Is Jackie? Oh, there you are. Jackie Clements, Maximus.
Good morning.
Morning.
I came in last week and spent a day training with a new accounts payable person. And we talked to a couple of department heads on some things that we talked to the surveyor about getting their records straightened up and some best practices and how we want to handle it between the offices and whose responsibility it's going to be. And he's considering that as far as moving the money from the general drain improvement to the maintenance fund. I also discussed with the accounts payable, the auditor's office, and the surveyor's office on an easier way of tracking their drains and how much is in each individual drain, how much money the county has obligated toward that drain, so that they can see the reports a little easier, what the auditor's office is showing, and everyone's agreeable. And we talked about utility bills. There have been some utility bills that have come from the wrong account lines, and Director Bell has agreed to help with those utility bills and helping getting those straightened out on what should be coming from the courthouse and 911 and those other issues, the jail. So she's working on that. She has a list of items that we talked about, the surplus tax fund, what she needs to do to get it going, and some other, working on negative balances, negative appropriation balances. I showed her how to run a report, find those, and what she can look for in those to know how to correct them. And she's working on those. So she has a list of about 8 items that she's working on to get corrected for things that are in the ledgers that are wrong currently. We spent some time going through claims, previous claims, and I showed her, I went through a batch of claims and detailed what was wrong with different claims. Showed those to Lindsay, showed her how to correct what needed corrected, and I think she has a real good hold on it. I think it'll probably take her, a couple of months to get comfortable with it, with the claim process. She's made a couple of phone calls down to me to ask some questions, good questions, and so I think that's moving along. I think change has been made. It's going to be a good change. I think she's very up on it. And she'll do a good job. I then went through the wheel tax surtax fund for the highway, and I'm going to give you this report. I went through 2 years of wheel tax surtax, and the state auditor's office was gracious enough to send a claim to, a list of all the BMV deposits that have been made. And what we found in those, and I've basically come up with an amount of money through September that has not been dispersed to the local units for the 2-year period. And if you look on the second page, this is total wheel tax surtax countywide. There is about $52,000 through the end of September that needs to be, and wheel tax surtax runs a full month behind because it takes the BMV so long to get it into the bank and the reports. There's $52,000 of wheel tax that needs dispersed out to everybody, and then there's $153,000 of surtax that needs dispersed. And the total amount that means to the county highway fund is about $170,000. The county's share of this money is about $170,000 that I will be giving to Greg that he'll be dispersing out, I'm sure within the next week. That will get him current on wheel tax surtax for the 2 years. Any questions on that? He'll then make another distribution the 1st of December, which will be for the October wheel tax surtax. Because all that's there now is through, we looked on the BMV and they're only through the 15th of October with their deposits. So that will get us caught up on wheel tax surtax distributions.
Is that Sherry's main concern, Larry?
Yeah.
I mean,
That was Sherry's main concern.
Yeah, we've been running on empty because she's been trying for 2 years to get this done and with no success.
I also have requested from the state auditor's office, and they send me the information because they know that I'm working with their county, on the amount of distribution of MVH funds that should be that has been given to the county to ensure that the MVH funds are all within the correct account, MVH, local road and street. And I talked with Sherry last week, and she's comfortable with her local road and street. She's pretty sure it's where it should be, but just for a comfort level, I felt like maybe we needed to get those distribution amounts and ensure that they're in the highway fund. And this will take care of the highway fund and catch us all up on highway. Any questions?
Question. Jackie, the $205,000 from the wheel tax and surtax, where was that money at?
It's
And was
sitting-
it spent?
No, it hasn't been spent. What happens is the excise, the BMV puts excise, they automatically deposit it into the bank accounts. It's setting in a line item on the cash book with excise. And
But it
when,
never got transferred over?
right, when the reports get from the BMV outside, then the auditor requests the treasurer to transfer those into the distribution fund, and then they go out to the different units. Because this involves the city, Windfall, Kempton, Elwood Civil City even gets a little bit. All of the small towns get some money out of the wheel tax, surtax also.
Except Hobbs,
Pardon?
except for Hobbs.
Hobbs isn't a town.
Forget it.
Sorry. Hobbs doesn't have a tax rate, they're not a town. So,
What you
Where's
said.
that? Never mind, I'm teasing.
I know.
Thank you, Jackie, and thanks a million.
We're getting ready to start on the general fund. That was your next thing that you wanted done. And we kind of looked at that a little bit when I showed Lindsay the negative report. But I ran a brand new ledger last week. I have it downloaded, and I'll be going through the disbursements and the receipts, just kind of looking to make sure that it appears from the vendor that they're in the right place. And like I said, we're working on the utility bills, Verizon, Veteran, TVS, to make sure they're coming out of the right account. If you have, Commissioner Harper, if you have anything that you know is off, if you could email it to me, I would appreciate it. That would, there's no sense in spending double time on it.
So, Lindsay and Jason and Dean and I met on this drainage fund, and do you feel that, has Lindsay spoken with you about that?
Yeah, and so is Jason.
No, but
Yeah,
that's-
and that's what we're gonna set it up so that when Jason goes in and runs a report, he'll be able to see how much the auditor's office is attributing to that drain. And we also talked about how they want to handle when the drain goes in the negative, because the maintenance fund is supposed to pay the bill, and then general drain puts the money back in maintenance, and then at settlement time, we reverse it. Currently, that's not happening. Currently, we're paying for it out of general drain. And, it's kind of a gray matter, and I told them it's their choice how they want to handle it, but we just need to put in place a responsibility of the auditor's office and the surveyor's office. And so the surveyor was talking to his staff, and Lindsay's kind of pondering it as she learns it, to make her what she thinks would be best for all. And then when we get it together, we're gonna, and as we get through settlement, we'll make sure that all the drain monies are where they're supposed to be. But yeah, we did have discussion on that, and they're working on that.
Thanks, Jackie.
Has there been time spent training Auditor Townsend on how to continue to do what Jackie's doing when the money runs out here?
He's gotten some, he just hadn't.
Or what's gonna happen at that point?
I'm sorry, I was talking, I didn't hear.
The question was whether you have been training Greg so he can.
Greg sits in on some of the trainings also, yes, yes, and I take calls from Greg frequently. In fact, I took one Saturday.
So we've
And
been
answer
able to
his
stop the
question.
bleeding then, right? We've been able to stop the bleeding?
I believe Greg is making steps to stop the bleeding, yes.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Jackie.
Thanks, Jackie.
Okay. Jason Henderson, Pork Festival report.
Well, I'm here to give a report just real quickly on the Pork Festival. Just like with any other board, this committee board, they reorganize every 2 years. And at the last meeting, Brett Cornett was elected as president, so anything out moving forward, he'll be handling or coordinating. And then Dina Webster was vice Vice President, and Jackie Henry, Secretary.
Who's
But
the
what,
vice president?
Adinda Webster over
Okay.
here at Luttrell Insurance.
Okay.
But just as it reported, I think today in the Cocoa Tribune, there was probably an hour discussion about revamping. Everybody was just throwing ideas out on how to save monies. That detailed report, as you'll notice, there's two things that it does not include, because those hadn't been paid at the time, and that would be the food tent expense was like to McFarland for $38,000, and then grounds expense, which is just simply the tents, $13,800. So, I mean, I'm at the meeting, they bounced ideas off of everything on, changing the food tent area, moving into the fairgrounds, but there was no decision made, and there wasn't going to be any made at that meeting. It was just simply to discuss, ideas as they're going to move forward, so we can plan to cut costs. But when it gets down to cutting costs, if you pay those other bills that are not included in that report, our treasurer estimates that it would be a shortage of $5,500. The weird thing is we've still got some monies that are yet to come in from sponsorships and maybe a rebate from some Pepsi vendors. So that number, the estimate was going to be probably somewhere around just maybe $1,000 to $2,000 that might be the shortage. So it definitely wasn't as bad as it could have been, because Friday was horrible. That's the first time I think the officers mentioned that they ever had to evacuate the grounds, and of course the entertainment didn't perform that evening, so the food tent wasn't able to make any money. But I said I would report back, and there was some concerns I think that were mentioned in a meeting, and then Commissioner Harper had emailed them to the officers, and those were read into the record at the last meeting. So Brett's going to be moving forward with planning, and there's still going to be a lot of participation. There's still going to be some decisions made. But I was just sitting back looking around the room. Almost everybody in this room has either participated or indirectly is affected by the festival, whether it be from parade entries to I don't know where you went. Yeah, Dr. Salisbury, they do a lot of volunteerism and ministering at the festival. So
On this 120,000, you say there's two more expenses there on the tent and the...
Yeah, the tents, which those are the two largest expenses that we have, and that was $13,790 for Montgomery tent, and then the McFarling bill, which is the one who supplies us with the food that we utilize in the food tent, was $38,000.
So when you say that you're negative about $5,500, or maybe some other rebates coming in around $2,000, does that mean for this year, or does that mean in your overall total?
No, that would be for this last festival this year.
And then you were in the red last year too, and
Right, but we had a surplus that was built, I thought, of around 20,000. So, I think Brett had mentioned that the business model for the festival was built on a rain event every 3 or 4 years, and then a single bad year, but then we had a rain the last 3 festivals.
so your overall is not in the negative. You still have some money.
No, I believe the reserves have been exhausted from the last 2 festivals prior to this one here. So I believe any negative amount that's shown now is, that would be current.
So that's being taken out of the volunteers' personal pockets, or?
Well, that like I said, they were just getting ready to pay those last 2 bills, and there was also some administrative fees and some things that the treasurer thought was going to come in, but that decision of, how do you carry a debt, through some type of loan will have to be made by the officers.
Okay.
I just said I would come back and report.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Okay, thanks, Jason, for coming back to us. Greg, we're ready for payroll and miscellaneous claims. And Greg, did you not tell me that we don't have any minutes today?
I don't have minutes for the last meeting.
But we do have minutes for the executive.
Yes.
All right. I would entertain a motion then concerning the minutes that are in our packet here for the joint executive session. That's the only set of minutes that we will be approving.
I make a motion we approve the joint executive session minutes between the Commissioners and County Councils of October 24th, 2012.
Second.
We have a motion second to approve the joint executive session minutes from the October 24th meeting between the council and the commissioners. All those in favor say aye. Motion carries.
When is the next executive session?
Thursday. We
Right.
set it.
Oh, so it's the 7th?
It's the 8th at 5:30 in the John Tipton room.
Okay,
Yes.
have you put that in the
It's
database?
going in today.
It's going today, yes. It's already typed, and I believe it's already open.
Do you have a copy of this with you, or you want us to
Yes,
sign
it
one of
is.
these?
Yes, it is.
You can just get the signatures, Greg, of the council members. Thursday on that.
Yes, I have two sections there, and they were shaded separately for their approval on the same form.
All right, we are ready for payroll, Darrell.
Derek, on the payroll, on the commissioners, I noticed that it was higher, and,
It's because my census rate wasn't taken out of the commissioner, we do it as a gross adjustment, and then I put in the account line that it's taken out of. It's not coming out of the commissioner's budget.
okay, so it's not, is it taken out of the claims or the miscellaneous?
Yes, it's not in the miscellaneous claim. My payment for Big Cicero is not in the miscellaneous.
It's through payroll, if they're counting employees, then it's paid through me. If they're not counting employees, then it's paid as a claim. That's what Jackie told us to do as far as that, because I questioned that, because I used to.
Oh, right, right, so when it says pay group salary total gross 2253, that's not coming from the salary line.
Not all of them, just
Okay.
your guys is the 160350
Right.
or whatever,
Okay.
and then the extra is coming out
Of
of the Big
those
Cicero.
two lines, okay.
And that's the way you'll do it from now on, because it's been back and forth. Part of the
Yeah,
thing is
because I
one way.
paid, and then they said that it needed to be done as a claim.
That's when it started last January, then they
Okay.
changed.
I just do what they tell me to do.
Okay,
If
well, I
they
just
tell
want
me
to
I'm
make sure that when I
Yeah.
saw it, that it said salary gross total, and make sure
Yeah.
it wasn't coming out of the salary
No,
line.
it's not coming out of their salary.
Jack, which one?
No.
I make a motion, we pay the salaries for check date 11/9/2012 in an amount of $128,566.66.
Second.
We have a motion second on the floor to pay payroll today, $28,566.66 for the check date 11/9/2012. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, miscellaneous claims.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. Right.
Total for miscellaneous claims is $105,421.52.
Anything on this one? Yes. Okay, this one, it's take the time for the people's here. Only because it doesn't really come out like it only. So, right, so it should be right under here. Okay. For state road. What was that state road council for?
I believe it was.
Okay. That was for the regular one, just wondered,
No, I think that's for one.
who are?
I think it's for one of the counties.
Oh, yes, you're right, Tom Schultz. We got into that trouble. And then, did you check the Tipton Tribune claim? Because on the first set of claims that you sent us, you had 127.84, and that's
Right.
125.18.
Yes, because I had put in, there were two for 33.44, and I had put in one of the 33.44s, and one of them was 36.10.
So that 125.18 is right?
Yes.
Okay, then on this R.D. Phillip, for this is not ours. This should go under courthouse supplies. See, 3, it says courthouse mental health, you've got R.D. Phillip. But see, that's paper towels and stuff, so that should be right here, under supplies. Same with this one on page 4, was Ramsey's first was 8/17/11, and the first set, now it's 8/17.
Right, and I have got figured that put in.
Okay, right. Okay, so now the DLZ claim is both. Questions? Do you have any questions?
You feel, any questions?
Okay. I'll move to approve miscellaneous claims in the amount of $105,421.52 for docket date 11/5/12.
We have a motion second to pay the miscellaneous claims today in the amount of $105,421.52. All those in favor say aye. Motion carries.
This one? You need to see? Did you have it? And veteran bills that come in, I went ahead and mailed those payments out, and their amount is $729.87, and there's all the payments.
Hey, Greg.
They were due Wednesday or Thursday. Those days, not cities.
And those were various locations. Okay, this claim is for various locations where we have veteran services and had to be paid, so to avoid the late fee in the amount of $729.87, so I move to approve
729 what?
$729.87.
Second. Got a motion second on the floor to pay a separate claim to veteran for $729.87. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay.
They amount to $1,495.84.
And is it the same, various
Yes.
different locations, and then we have all, of them?
Except for the one.
Yeah. Okay, this is for Tipton Utilities Service Board in the amount of $1,495.84 for various locations at Tipton Utilities. I move to approve.
Motion second on the floor to approve a claim to Tipton Utilities in the amount of $1,495.84. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, we have one for the courthouse for Tipton Utilities in the amount of $4,623.37. After we've paid those, we have $1,667.05 left. So we need to transfer money in order to do this.
What's the amount, what's the claim for?
$4,623.37.
Did all those come out of courthouse?
Some of them did, and some of them came from their own location. Here's the breakdown. It's gonna be out there.
So 576 in the courthouse.
572.46. No, this is Tipton.
I don't understand why it's, why we are losing it. So we're gonna have that one too.
And there's only 1,667.05 in that as of today. The claims that we received.
Did you have a veteran for the courthouse? I'm trying to figure out what that balance is gonna be.
Yes, there's one for the court, there's
Okay, 2155?
305.45.
Okay, and those look like that they're pretty standard. Okay. Oh, you've already, I see, they're already out. Were they 1029? Yeah, they're already taken out, so this is the current one.
The total bill is $4,623.37.
Okay, we have $9,277 in the gas line. October's been paid. November, it's looking like it's around $400 a month, although some of them have been a little bit higher. So I would recommend we transfer $5,000 out of gas and put it in utilities.
We'll have the same problem next month anymore. That'll take care of this month.
Put from gas into
Okay.
electric and water. We'll give you those numbers.
Got a
Okay.
motion?
Yeah.
Second.
Yes, but I didn't give her the, trying to give her the numbers. I move that we transfer $5,000 from courthouse 35200 to courthouse 3510.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion second on the floor to transfer $5,000 from courthouse gas to the utility line of electric and water. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
And then we can approve that claim, which is, then I'll move that we approve the claim to Tipton Utility Service Board for $4,623.37.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion second on the floor to approve a claim to Tipton Utilities for courthouse in the amount of $4,623.37.
we signing this individual?
No, it was just to show you.
Okay. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Okay, I have an appointment that I have to go to at this time. I will turn the meeting over to Phil, Aaron, and let him finish out the meeting.
We have 3 Tipton Tribune claims which need to be paid at $39.
What's that?
One is 3610, one is 4512, and one is 37. Tipton Tribune.
For advertising.
3610, 4512, and 37.
On 1876.
1876.
We shouldn't have any more dues, I don't think. Dues. I see, our last thing was, we got it all, I'm pretty sure all the dues paid.
We've already paid the Chamber of Commerce, which was
The last
the
one.
lion's share.
Okay. We have $187.40 in dues. Let's just empty that out and put it in the legal. Okay, and we will transfer from the whole thing, $187.40. We'll probably have more newspaper, from 3 Commissioner line 39100. Oh, here it is, publisher of 33202. That should take care of that one. Yes, that's my motion.
I second it. There's been motion on the floor and seconded to transfer $187.40 from the dues line 39100 to line 33206.
And then I move to approve the claim to Tipton Publishing for $118.76.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Oh, all right, okay.
Now, there's a motion on the floor to pay the claim in an amount of $118.76 to TDS. I forgot to second, I second.
Okay.
Motion on the floor and seconded to pay TDS $118.76. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried.
We have Community Howard, mental health for $48,291.98.
What is that we do? We're short $1553.66 on that. The Senate October 11th. Hey Larry, if you're going out, would you ask Linda Alter if she could come in here for a second? Linda and see if it could take her feet over. I don't, if they're not gonna need, maybe she has $1,600. We have $1,600 in that fund. Yeah, but what happened, apparently, they raised it from last year. So when the council, did the budget, it was based on what their previous year was. And I'm sure that they let somebody know, but I don't think that word got to us.
48,000.
48,000.
291.98.
Linda, the only reason I asked you to come over was, do you still anticipate that you need that Peterborough money?
For this year, I have not met with the Peterborough yet because I'm trying to straighten out the thing. And I will probably be meeting. How much was it?
Well, we have $1,600 in our budget in that line. And we are short about $1,550 to pay a covered regional health bill. I didn't know if it would be.
Okay, I know that I'll probably have to have at least 3 days. 3 days, and like I said, for them. Okay?
Okay.
For this year, because I've got all the nonprofits to go through, and.
I was just asking to see if.
Sure,
if we
and I
could,
can't blame you. I can't, I mean, if I knew for sure how many.
for money.
So,
I don't know.
What's it for?
It's for our contract with Howard Regional Health. But probably what happened was they raised it. See, we had it appropriated and they raised it, and then now the raise, that didn't get word to us. And they sure percent.
Could they contact them and pay them what we do have appropriated and ask if they hold the rest of January?
Yeah, but see, we don't have when we get the budgets, I'll have to see if we have enough then.
We could ask for, if they don't have enough for next year, we have time to get, we have time to deal with the money, but you can't get any more money in December. So,
Well, why don't we do that, Lindsay? Just ask them, tell them what happened, and ask them if we can pay what we have, which is $1,553 short. And then we'll try to, if we can come up with the money this year, we will.
yes, that's what I think.
and I will try to check and see. If
Yeah, and when you're done meeting and you know that you will not be needing any more money, you can let us know, and then we could take the rest
Okay.
off. Okay.
Yeah, I sure will.
Yeah, thanks, Linda.
Okay, then,
Yeah.
let's see what that matters now. Let's see. We have that.
How much money do we have left in the edit fund? In the edit fund?
I don't know.
76,000 somewhere in there? That's the last figure I heard. Jay,
Oh, I think it's about 70.
70 now?
Okay, I will move that we approve payment to Howard Regional Health System Services in the amount of $46,708.02.
It's 46,708.02.
Correct.
I'll second the motion. We have a motion on the floor and seconded to pay community health in the amount of $46,708.02. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried.
Thank you.
Simplex rental, $475.
Okay, I sent you an email.
Right, I just want to go ahead and take this,
Okay.
just
Okay.
back.
This one. And you do have it out of.
I haven't put it on here yet, I'm gonna change it.
Oh, okay, comes out of budget 48. Actually, we already approved
That's what we did last
the
week.
contract.
Certified laboratories for water testing, $2,120.
When's that due? That one should come out of outside professional services, and you're right, we don't have enough money for that.
due on October 30th.
Okay, well, I have to think on that one, right, and wait, because I have no idea what I'm gonna get $2,100.
You could pay it out of, toilets budget, associated toilets. But that's fine with me too.
Okay, yeah, let me think about that one.
And my last one is for John Brook.
John, we could agree to wait till after January.
Okay.
But on that though, Phil, I have a suggestion. This last bill was $1,050. And John has done a lot of work that relates to the legal, correct?
Correct.
A lot. And I think that it's justifiable to take that bill out of Project 52. We have $69,000. I mean, it's certainly related to
I don't have a problem.
economic development. And,
I don't have a problem with it.
okay, well, then I think that we need to pay it in.
Make it.
Okay, I move we approve this last claim to John Brook in the amount of $1,012.50 out of Project 52.
Second. Okay, there's a motion made and seconded to pay John Brooks' claim out of Project 52, Fund 557. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried.
Thank you. As I said, I was willing to wait till next year, so
Oh.
I appreciate that. Thank you. But you notice who brought it up.
Yeah,
You thought you were gonna
John,
have to wait. You
on
brought it
that,
up.
I did send you an email on that railroad thing, that's gonna have to come out of another fund too, on your work that you did on the railroad.
Oh, yes.
Okay. Lindsay, did you find anything out about the Indian Association of County Commissioner claim? Because they were supposed to have a refund. Okay. Okay, then, on the historical, or are you done with yours?
Yes, go ahead.
On the Historical Society, from last meeting, Greg, there was a resolution done, the night that you were named auditor, and so I would not have expected you to have known or carried this through me. I'm sure that everything was kind of chaotic at that time. But anyway, the county council had created the line out of the general fund for the Historical Society, Heritage Museum, Public Records, and they had appropriated already the amount of $27,2358 into that line. So see, that can be paid out of that line because it should be there. But here's the resolution for you, and it shows there are several things that were done that night. And oh, here, I have the ones that were, let's see, this was the only thing that was done. This one was entered in, and none of these others were acted upon.
Okay.
So that way we can take care of that claim on the next, yeah. Did you hear anything from Pioneer?
Yes, I got my report.
Oh, okay.
You're done.
Okay, one more thing for me then. In the Project 60 that we created, you put in 36,000, I believe, but the contract is for 36,500.
Correct.
We really do need to go ahead and put the other $500 in there.
Okay,
So I say take it out again, Project 52, and transfer.
that's fine.
Okay, I'll move we transfer $500 from Project 52, Project 60, in order to fulfill the contractual amount for the DLC.
You probably won't get your bill until after the first year.
But see, that way then we can cover that.
Yes, I agree.
Okay. You second that?
Second. Motion been made and seconded to transfer $500 from Project 52 to Project 60. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried.
Thank you.
My report is I did talk with Plant Manager Chad from Pioneer. He said he will be more than happy to talk to the truck drivers and put in their orientation that no engine brakes are allowed in the residential areas, and we will see how this carries through.
Okay.
You gonna put up some signs?
He is going to put it in the truckers' orientation. Also, the thing, I went to talk to Wayne of Pickering Interiors. He says he should complete this week. So I want you to be sure and notice the 3 doors and entryways and see if your son is fine. If not, let him know before he presents his bill.
Okay.
You got anything else?
No, I see that, Greg, you have some things for us?
Just wanted you to be aware, put information in your packets concerning the new floodplain maps that have been released by FEMA to Tipton County, and they're a matter of congressional record as well. FEMA will be advertising in the Tipton Tribune on probably the 31st of October, and again on, I would imagine around the 7th, but probably tomorrow, concerning the release of those floodplain maps. Residents and the county itself can petition for amendments or changes to that floodplain if they can provide to FEMA evidence that their floodplain maps are incorrect. Now, the consequences to the county may be significant in the fact that it may result in additional requirements for flood insurance by residents. It may also impact the development of property in this county. So this is the beginnings of a very important issue for Tipton County, and I wanted to bring this to your attention as quickly as I had received it.
I think it's already been in the paper.
It probably has, but this was official notification from FEMA. So each of you have those in your packet.
You got that?
You may wish to share that with the surveyor too.
Yes,
because
the
it'll
surveyor is the repository for
Okay.
for the floodplain maps. He specifically mentioned Steve Edson in the correspondence from FEMA.
We've got on our agenda
And
also
Henderson.
MJ Insurance renewal.
MJ Insurance has sent applications for us to sign to begin to get quotes for next year for the renewals. Our insurance, we're on, as I understand, we're at the end of the second year of the 3-year plan. So these are applications that need to be signed by a member of the commission, or the commissioners to really forward this back to MJ.
Okay, so that wasn't just for the automatic renewal this 1 year? I thought that when we looked at it, it was for.
Well, I think, as I understand, it's a 3-year plan,
Well,
and this is a renewal. So, if we have amendments or changes to the policy, any policy changes, then there would be a change probably in the
I thought that was just the renewal for 2013.
Yes,
That we-
yeah, but we do have the opportunity to make changes to the policy if we need to, for different kinds of coverage.
When did we go to that 3 years? Is that before I came over? I thought that.
Well, he extended it,
Remember he gave it, yeah, extended.
but it's out, it's over 2013. A year from right now, that one's done. So a year from right now, you should be taking bids on
Take
it.
this, yes. So we're good for another year.
We should be.
That will also affect our tax base too.
You got anything
We
else?
did have a lot of.
It's everywhere.
Anybody got anything? Bob?
The report that Jackie gave you, is that available to the public?
Yeah, but it's, anything saying it out in the meeting is public
Yeah.
record.
So it is, I mean, there's
It's
nothing
in a
confidential on
public
it.
meeting, so I'm sure it's available somewhere.
Can I get a copy of that after the meeting, Rudy?
The wheel tax
Down,
thing,
down, yes,
the
down.
wheel tax,
Yeah.
this one, the wheel tax thing.
Okay, thank you.
Talking
Anything else,
about,
Bob?
No.
Jim?
talking about Jackie there, I was wondering now, are we pretty well on course? In other words, we were able to stop the bleeding like she said, and we should see an ultimate end here pretty quick, shouldn't we? Maybe Greg will know more about it, I don't know. Are we getting any closer to the end, Greg?
Well, obviously, there's progress made. Some of that progress was held up by the suspension of, while there was negotiation on scope of work and the payment. So we lost some time while those negotiations were going on. So now that we have that settled, we're back actively pursuing the reconciliation of the books.
I would think everything she does gets us closer.
The other part of that question was that we've stopped, in other words, the people now pretty well know what they're doing, are they trained pretty well, do they need more training, or where are we at on that?
We're doing cross-training,
Uh-huh.
and certainly the office is stronger than it has
Yeah, well,
been
sure.
in a while.
Yes.
As to whether or not we need additional training, that is an ongoing question.
Well,
And
how do you feel
I've been-
about it? I'm asking you.
Well, I've been in contact with other auditors in the state of Indiana
Yeah.
who have used similar programs and have similar size offices, and they have pledged to assist us in a mentoring program that would allow me to send one of my employees perhaps to one of the other counties for a day to job shadow, learn techniques and best practices.
Fantastic.
And that would be of very little expense to the county because it would just be, the training itself would not cost anything. It would,
Have we brought that up to the county council?
Anybody else got anything?
No.
Not yet.
Motion
Move
adjourned?
to adjourn.
Second. Motion been made and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion